He was a smooth and graceful presence in the NBA. During his 12 seasons with the San Antonio Spurs, he was one of the most awesome scoring machines in operation, winning 4 scoring titles in his career. He ran with such cool precision that he earned the nickname the Iceman. His name, George Gervin. Today on Greatest Sports Legends, host Michael Jordan met up with a man who once dazzled the NBA with his many moves. His name is George Gervin. And during his career with the San Antonio Spurs, he overwhelmed many opponents with his repertoire of shots. As Michael Jordan found out, George had an unlimited arsenal of weapons. He could go to his left or his right and make the running hook shot as easily as he makes his patented underhand finger roll. George, the Iceman Gervin, certainly left his mark in the NBA.
George, how did you develop such a great shooting touch?
Well, when I was back in high school, this janitor, a friend of mine named Mr. Winters, he made me a proposition. He said if I swept the floors, then I could stay and shoot around until he left, and which was usually about 10, 11 at night. And that's why I used to take advantage of shooting the ball 400, 500 times a day. And I think that what really makes me what I was in the past, in the pros, with having that opportunity to practice and getting everything down patented.
George Gervin, the Iceman. Throughout his career, George was a dominant player, burning his opponents with his sizzling moves and unstoppable shots. He was a creative force, averaging 26 points a game per season, while displaying tremendous body control, fluid moves, and an uncanny knack for finding a path to the basket. At 6 feet 8 inches, George was one of the best guards of his time, winning 4 scoring titles. In addition, he was selected to 12 consecutive All-Star teams. George was, without a doubt, one of the greatest players in NBA history. But it all started for George at Eastern Michigan University, where George played shooting forward. He did not, however, have a typical college career.
George, we realized that you attended Eastern Michigan for 2 years. What made you decide to leave? What were the circumstances for you leaving?
Well, you know, the reason why is that we was in NCAA in Indiana, and we played in a tournament, and we played a team that was kind of, you know, playing us well, and I got a little frustrated. You know, the game got a little rough, and I got a little frustrated, and I punched this guy named Jay Bacola, and I knocked him out, and they put me out the game. So after that, I was on my own. You know, I couldn't go back to school. I didn't have no opportunity to play basketball for anyone, so I had to do something else.
So that one punch got you kicked out of the university?
Yeah, that one punch really was education for me. You know, it really showed me how you can't get frustrated and lose your head, because when you lose your head, you may do anything or say anything. And I guess I really learned a lot from that, and it helped me be more patient and understanding of, you know, what life is really all about.
In 1973, George began his pro career when he was signed as a forward by the Virginia Squires of the ABA. Then, in 1974, he was traded to the San Antonio Spurs. George's arrival pushed home attendance up and created immediate excitement. He continued to play the forward position as he grew into the Spurs system. In 1976, the Spurs merged with the NBA, giving George national exposure. But that very same year, Spurs coach Doug Moe made a major change when he moved George from the forward to the guard position. As a guard, George Gervin instantly became a dominant player.
I think that changed my whole life. But since, you know, I was a big guard, and I had advantage over a lot of the smaller guards, because at that time it wasn't any real big guards, so a lot of forwards had to check me. So anytime forward had to check me, we had mostly like a mismatch. You know, from my quickness and being able to shoot the ball. So I think being, you know, the big guard in the league at that time, you know, really motivated me to, you know, keep excelling and wanting to win that scoring title.
By the 1977-78 season, George had established himself as a premier guard in the NBA. With his near-perfect outside shooting touch and his ability to go one-on-one, George was nearly unstoppable. George's 27-point scoring average enabled the Spurs to win the Central Division and a playoff berth in just their second year as an NBA team. But the highlight of the season had to be George's quest for a scoring title. In the last game of the season, George needed 59 points to beat out David Thompson for the honor. In a display of incredible determination, George went all out, scoring seemingly at will. By game's end, George had done it. He had scored 63 points and won his first scoring title. It was just the beginning for the Iceman.
You know, George, you were not known as a fast player, but yet you had that quick first step. Is that something that you utilized to beat the defender?
Yeah, of course, man. You know, having that first step gave me an opportunity to really get all my shots off. And being able to use that first step going both ways, you know, really make your defender wonder what you're going to do. And it gave me an opportunity to having that first step to really get my jump shot off. I think that helped my jumper a great deal.
After you won your first scoring title, did you find defenders gunning for you a little harder?
Oh, yeah, I think, you know, it worked on both ends. It made me work harder offensively, and it made the defender really try to, you know, stop me. So that's where the competition came in, and I think that what motivated me to want to keep scoring because so many guys was trying to stop me.
Despite the determined efforts of opposing defenders, George Gervin continued to roll through the NBA. In the 1978-79 season, he enjoyed his best year yet. His scoring average soared to 30 points per game, good enough for George to capture his second scoring title in as many years. Clearly, one of the game's most popular players, George was the top vote getter for that year's All-Star game. Playing for a team that averaged 119 points per game, the Iceman became the first guard to win the scoring title 2 consecutive years. Certainly, George was an offensive model for an offensive-minded team.
In the late 70s, the Spurs under Doug Moe were really a fun team to watch. Not much on defense, but plenty on offense.
Well, nobody really paid no attention to our defense because our offense was our defense. You know, we ran up and down that floor so much and scored on so many people that they had to find a way to really move up their offense to compete with us, and it wasn't about defense. You know, defense is good, but you need somebody to score. And, you know, San Antonio Spurs was a scoring machine. That's all we did was score.
Run and gun. In the late 1970s, the San Antonio Spurs were an offensive powerhouse. They were consistently #1 in league scoring, a team always on the move. Their impressive ball handling and effective passing created a lightning-quick attack which left opponents dizzy. The Spurs' philosophy on offense was simple. Score so many points that the other team couldn't possibly keep up. They were the ultimate run-and-gun team, and George Gervin was their most lethal weapon. In the 1978-79 season, the Spurs' high-speed chases led to another Central Division first-place finish. In the playoffs, they progressed further than ever before. They met the defending champion Washington Bullets in the Eastern Conference Finals. George Gervin's 26-point average made him a dominant factor in this series. His efforts helped San Antonio build a 3-games-to-1 advantage. The series went the full 7 games. And in the deciding contest, George scored an amazing 42 points. Despite his performance, the Spurs lost the series to the Bullets.
You know, Washington Bullets back at that time was, you know, tough. And I think they went on that year and won the championship. It was just something that we couldn't get over. You know, we had the advantage, and I think we took them for granted because we was up 3-1. And you can't take anybody for granted in basketball. It's never over till the fat lady sing. And that's what their theory was, and that's what they wanted with.
That same year, you were the top vote getter for the NBA All-Star game. Certainly the public recognized you as a winner.
Well, that was a great thrill for me when the fans voted me as such. And, I think that meant a lot for me, and that carried me a long way. And I guess that instilled in me to continue what I was doing, and that's, with playing with all my heart. I love the game with all my heart, and it meant something to me. So that's how I played it, like I loved it.
In the history of professional basketball, the game has produced some outstanding talent at the guard position. There was Bob Cousy, the Houdini of the hardwood. At 6 feet, he was one of the greatest ball handlers ever. His phenomenal playmaking ability led the Boston Celtics to 6 world championships. Then there was Jerry West, Mr. Clutch. At 6'3", he averaged 27 points per game in his career. A member of 14 All-Pro teams, West led the Lakers to an NBA title in 1972. Next was Oscar Robertson, the Big O. At 6'5", Oscar had many assets for a guard. He was a triple threat, as he could rebound, pass, and score, averaging 30 points per game. But in the mid-70s, one guard emerged to change the position forever. George Gervin had a unique blend of assets. He was a towering 6 feet 8 inches tall and created havoc for opponents. George was tall enough to shoot over most guards and quick enough to run by most forwards. With this combination, the Iceman was one cool customer, a man always in control of his game.
George, when you're on the court, it seems as though you're enjoying yourself. It's amazing the way that your facial expression shows that you're just out there, you're just having a good time, you're cool and you relax. Is that something you try to express?
Well, it's just something that really is all a part of my game. I know the key to being successful out there is having your full concentration. And I know and me having my concentration, it gives me the confidence to do what I'm capable of doing. And me being able to do what I'm capable of doing comes from practicing. And I practice all the time. And, you practice just like you taking a test. When you study, you're going to pass the test. So I use basketball as that same example.
George scored high marks with the Spurs in the 79-80 season. By winning his 3rd straight scoring title, he proved he was one of the greatest scorers ever. By employing his soft outside jump shot, George was able to set up his equally effective drives to the basket. Either way, he was a thrill to watch. Unpredictable and indescribable. There was little doubt George was a pivotal component to the Spurs' attack. As team captain, he was their floor leader, setting up strategy and helping out his teammates when game pressure demanded he come up with that little bit extra.
At the end of a game, when it's crunch time, you're proven to be one of the best clutch players in the league. What is your mental attitude at that time?
Well, I guess, it really on how the conditions of the game are. Is it up to me to take the last shot, or is it up to me to make the last play? Because the bottom line is when you're trying to win, you want to get the guy that got the best shot, the ball. And I guess I really believed in that. And sometimes I could have took the last shot, but I felt another guy had a better shot, and I gave the ball up because I feel the game is played like that.
George's unselfish attitude fit in with new coach Stan Albeck's defensive strategy in the 1980-81 season. Gone was the freewheeling run-and-gun style. The Spurs were now geared toward defense and physical play. Yet San Antonio knew that they needed to score points to win, and the Iceman was happy to oblige. With a 32-point average, George won his 4th scoring title in 1982. George now owned more scoring titles than anyone but Will Chamberlain. George Gervin created a lot of excitement for the Spurs fans. But one man can't do it all. And although the Spurs came close several times during George's career, they never found the ingredients needed to attain the most coveted award in basketball, an NBA title.
But it just wasn't in our destiny. That's the only answer I can come up with. we did all the things it takes to get there, but you know, once you get there, you got to do something special. And I don't think we did the special things to win it all.
Well, the San Antonio fans really supported the Spurs, especially you, the Iceman. It seems though that you and the fans really had a great relationship.
Well, yes, I did kind of have a special relationship with the fans, and it grew over the years. You know, I was there 12 years, and I came there as a 19-year-old kid, so I was hungry, but I was always willing to learn. So we just got along very well. They supported me every year, and then once you see somebody for a long time, you kind of get used to them. So.
Entering the 1985-86 season, George Gervin was the San Antonio Spurs' all-time leading scorer. His unflagging determination made him invaluable to his team. The fans had grown to love the Iceman and his thrilling exhibitions. On October 24th, 1985, George Gervin and his fans were shocked to learn that the Iceman had been traded to the Chicago Bulls.
George, what was it like leaving the Spurs where you played so many years for them?
Well, you know, I didn't necessarily want to go, but, you know, in basketball, it's just not only basketball, it's business too. So I knew that I've been fortunate to play in San Antonio for 12 years, and, you know, looking around the league and seeing all the guys moving every other year or, you know, moving year in and year out, I felt blessed that I had the opportunity to stay in one place for 12 years. And in that situation, I just had to understand that it was time for me to go. So I elected to come down there where another superstar was within yourself and enjoy the opportunity I had playing with you.
While having a chance to play with a talent like Michael Jordan, George enjoyed a fine year with the Chicago Bulls. He played in all 82 games and averaged 16 points per game. That season would be the Iceman's final year in the NBA. The next year, George joined the European basketball circuit, playing for the Banco de Roma team in Italy. Fans grew to love the man they called Italian Ice.
I had a great time. You know, it was a great experience for me and my family. A lot of that came out for the best for me. I think it gave me a year to come down from the NBA and relax and be in the frame of mind I am now, and that's satisfied and appreciate what I have done.
George, what part of the game will you think you missed the most?
I guess really the most part is just being around the guys and living that life. The game itself, you know, it's something special going to always be in my heart. I guess when you was as successful as I was individually, you can't walk away from it and don't have to look back.
George, I want to thank you for coming to La Casa and sharing with us your career, and I think that everyone's going to appreciate what you have set for the NBA and the path that you have set for the NBA. Thanks again.
Hey, thank you, Michael Jordan. You're definitely one of my best. All right.
George Gervin, one of the most electrifying players in NBA history. His list of achievements includes 4 scoring titles, a 26-point-per-game scoring average, and a dozen All-Star appearances. George Gervin, the Iceman. He was a smooth and graceful presence in the NBA. During his 12 seasons with the San Antonio Spurs, he was one of the most awesome scoring machines in operation, winning 4 scoring titles in his career. He ran with such cool precision that he earned the nickname the Iceman. His name, George Gervin. Today on Greatest Sports Legends, host Michael Jordan met up with a man who once dazzled the NBA with his many moves. His name is George Gervin. And during his career with the San Antonio Spurs, he overwhelmed many opponents with his repertoire of shots. As Michael Jordan found out, George had an unlimited arsenal of weapons. He could go to his left or his right and make the running hook shot as easily as he makes his patented underhand finger roll. George, the Iceman Gervin, certainly left his mark in the NBA.
George, how did you develop such a great shooting touch?